She was black, beautiful and talented, and sometimes just that bit temperamental. But during the early 70s, Leilani was the darling of the Australian turf.
She became a public horse. She really did become a public horse, and she was jet black, which they also liked, blacks and greys, and she was jet black, she was flighty, and but I think the important thing about her is she just had this massive will to win under all circumstances. There were times when Leilani was winning, and very impressively, that I was asked a question on numerous occasions, compare her with the Great Light Fingers. And I always used to say, well, one's chestnut and one's black. She was a true champion of her era.
But if the Liberal Party had won the 1972 federal election, Leilani might never have seen a racecourse, let alone become a champion.
We lost the elections in 1972. I ceased to be a minister, and I was wanting to get out of the country for a while. So I, with the Rices and with Susan, we went to New Zealand for a holiday, and I stayed with very old friends, Tom and Gay Williams, who have the Tapari stud at Masterton in New Zealand. And they had Oncidium standing still then. They'd had Agricola. It was a very famous stud, still is. And on many of our walks and drives around in the property nearby, I noticed this small, dainty black filly. And I asked Tom about it, and he said it was owned by an old fellow named Ian McRae, who was a decent bloke, and I just liked the look of her. And I went to Mr. McRae, asked would he sell her to me, and he said no. And what most people don't know is that he then said to me that her dam had been so successful, she won about 16 races. Lay was her name. She was, as I recall, by summertime out of a mare called Sunkissed Flower, that he thought he would breed from Leilani and not race her. And I tried to buy her, and I went back another day and he wouldn't be in it. I knew Bart had his caravan tour going through New Zealand, so I rang him, caught up with him somewhere out of Auckland, and asked him would he divert off and come to us and have a look at not only fillies at Tom Williams' stud, but come down and have a look at this filly. He did. He wanted to buy her straight away. We negotiated and negotiated. We couldn't, but in the end, dear old Ian McRae agreed to lease her to me, and because I had Ian Rice on a holiday with me, I brought him in on it.
Leilani was unraced as a 2-year-old, but made rapid progress at 3 to win the AJC Oaks with Higgins aboard. Cummings then set her for the Caulfield Cup. In the spring, Higgins won the Turnbull Stakes on the mare, but couldn't make her Caulfield Cup weight. Mick Malyon could.
Roy Higgins apparently was talking to him, and he said, well, if he could ride the weight, that's the horse that he'd be riding in the Cup. So with that, I said, well, if it's bloody good enough for Roy Higgins, it's got to be good enough for Mickey Malyon. So
600 to go. Dandy Gem a length in front of Monolect. In the centre there is, on the inside, rather Special Boy. Over on the outside of it, Marinoto, and the Arama's dropped out. It's $1 million to 1. Leilani going very well, looking for a rails run, and Martindale running on. Into the straight they race now, and the leader Dandy Gem, but Leilani's got out with Special Boy, and coming at the leader, Leilani dashed to the lead. Bellotta's the danger out wide from Special Boy and Monolect. Leilani in front, Bellotta trying hard, but Leilani stretching right out like a real cup horse. And Leilani striding away. Here's the Caulfield Cup favourite. Leilani goes on to win by 3 lengths to Bellotta.
I didn't know how much ability she had before the Toorak. I was only going on what Roy had spoken of. But after I rode her in the Toorak, it just went into the Cup as far as I was concerned as unbeatable. That's barring any unforeseen happening, you know.
Malyon wasn't the only one who thought she could win.
Unbeatable. That's how it turned out.
Racing this time.
She jumped and began well, and I made my way across to the inside, never stopped going forward, and took up a lovely position. And she was always in a forward position, probably in the first half dozen all the way. Really, one of them rides to be dreaming of.
A length and a half to go, Fun. Leilani third on the fence. Ahead away, Gay Icarus. And with 700 to go, Leilani's been taken to the lead. A neck in front of Asgard. One to Gay Icarus getting through on the fence. A length to Igloo. Arama's struggling. Then Lord Metric, followed by Broadway Hit, running on from Pilfer Turf Cutter. Behind them, Go Fun, beaten from Grand Scale, Princess Eulogy, and Like a Lover's Last. Gay Icarus and Leilani sprinted away at the 500. They're 6 lengths in front of Igloo, with Turf Cutter running on from Lord Metric and Broadway Hit. Leilani has dashed clear as they straighten for home. Malyon riding for dear life, and Leilani's run 3 lengths in front of Gay Icarus. 4 lengths away, Turf Cutter, Igloo, Broadway hit Pilfer, but with 150 to go, Leilani 3 lengths in front. Gay Icarus is weakening, and then Turf Cutter, but it's Leilani's Caulfield Cup. The Bonnie Mare is going to win by 4 lengths. Broadway hit flashing up for second. Turf Cutter third. Ahead away, Gay Icarus fourth. Then 3 lengths.
Malyon was suspended after the Cup, and with Higgins also on the sidelines, the brilliant Peter Cook was substituted. Leilani and Cook combined to win the McKinnon Stakes 3 days prior to the Melbourne Cup. However, the 3-kilogram penalty she had received following her easy Caulfield Cup win was a worry.
I didn't say much because I thought it wouldn't help, and as a public figure people seem to interpret your statements in various ways, but privately I anguished. She would have had to have set a weight carrying record. It was at least 2.5 kilos more than Light Fingers had carried when she won the Cup. And as I recall, I may be wrong in this, but as I recall, had she won it, she'd have had to have carried more weight than any other filly or mare since Wakeful. And she certainly had the task ahead of us, and she gave it, as she did in everything, a very great shape.
Leilani is looking for a run between them, will need it. And here comes Captain Perry down the outside, and Turf Cutter. Turf Cutter is mowing grass. Battle Heights went to the front of the 200-metre mark from Leilani. Captain Perry on the outside then is Turf Cutter and Thing Big. Leilani is getting to Battle Heights, and on the outside, Captain Perry. Leilani just in front. Thing Big is picking it up down the outside, and Thing Big has got to win the Cup. Thing Big has won. Leilani is second.
The two that I questionably stand out. The pluck and just sheer determination she showed in the Melbourne Cup. And that's only overridden, and I'm glad it is because it was a disappointing result, by her performance only a few days later in the Queen's Cup on the Saturday when she stood outside a Gala Red up. I think he had more than 10 kilos advantage over her. It was certainly a significant advantage. And he went to a 25-length lead, and she took the field up to him and then just motored past in the straight and went home with Roy riding her knees down. And that, for a moment, swept away the disappointment of Cup Day.
But Leilani asked for the effort at the 300. It's Gala Red about 3 in front, but Leilani's got it covered. 10 lengths away then, Battle Heights, Fort Hagen and Grand Scale. Leilani's raced to the lead. Gala Red in second placing, and then Battle Heights, Fort Hagen. But Leilani's going to coast to victory about 4 lengths to Gala Red. Battle Heights ran third, ahead away then Fort Hagen. 6 lengths to Lord Metric. It was followed then by Grand Scale.
Leilani's outstanding spring form attracted an offer to race against Europe's best in the King George and Queen Elizabeth Stakes.
It would have been the opportunity to race against Ale France and Dahlia, the great mares of North America and Europe, and that wasn't to be, so we could never test her on the international scene. I often think that were she racing today, I don't think there'd be much hesitation picking up the offer.
Leilani returned in the autumn of '75 to win 3 successive weight-for-age races.
A length to my friend Paul, and on the inside of it, Munasta. All shot stretching out, but Leilani's got a break. All shot starting to run home hard, but Leilani 2 in front. All shots flying in the last little bit. Leilani in front, however, and she's too good. Leilani's won at 3/4 of a length to All Shot.
Even though the brave little mare was winning, her jockey, Higgins, was worried.
Each time I'd come back after the race and say, Bart, I don't know what it is, but there is something missing. I said that real ping is just not there. It's there's some little thing, whether or not it's you know, she's not coming up this preparation. And when we start talking about champions, I'm talking about that's just after winning. I said, I just doubt whether she's back to what she used to be at this particular point. And he said, oh, well, you know, we'll just keep pushing ahead. And come the Australian Cup after what I thought was an unimpressive win at weight for age prior to the Australian Cup, and then she was to come into that race with a pretty hefty weight on her back under handicap conditions. I must say I doubted her chance of winning that particular race. And when you put the result back down, yes, it was courage. That was courage that won the race.
Leilani's win in the Australian Cup was the high watermark of her career. She missed the spring of her 5-year-old season, but returned to win the St George Stakes the following autumn in 1976. She was then set for the Tancred Cup in Sydney. A win here would see her become Australia's greatest stakes-earning racehorse ever. However, it wasn't glory that lay ahead for the great mare.
It wasn't until we travelled some 500-600 metres of the Tancred that I said, hello, this is not the girl I know. There was no drive, there was no push, and By the time we got round the back of the course, it was over. And I led her back into the mounting yard, and at the same time, there was Bart and Susan and Andrew. They came running down out of the grandstand and naturally press all round. And, well, there were times in my career that I got tears in my eyes, and that was one of them.
To see her, or with a near foreleg just hanging, I mean, my only thought was to try and grab Percy Sykes and get down to that mounting yard before anybody could do anything to her. Fortunately, Percy was about 3 feet ahead of me racing down there, and he gave her painkillers as fast as possible, and we knew her career was over. And losing the Melbourne Cup was one thing, but losing her in terms of a racing career was the worst moment of my racing life.
Leilani's last appearance on the racetrack was the only occasion the little mare failed to earn prize money. She recovered from her injury and later returned to her owner breeder in New Zealand. She died in Australia at Carrington Stud in the Hunter Valley in February 1989 after a somewhat disappointing breeding career. When a powerful chestnut colt with a fluent stride entered the lives of trainer Jim Maloney and jockey Pat Hyland, nothing could ever be the same again. The colt went on to become arguably the best sprinter miler in Australian turf history. His name, Vane.
First day I said, oh, we're getting him broken in up at Berwick. And they said, oh, we'd like to go up and have a look at him. So we went up to Berwick to see the horse, and he was tied up to a hitching rail, and he was lying down, tied up. I thought to myself, I don't know whether this horse is going to be a champion or not. He looked pretty bedraggled in the state he was in on that occasion.
Vane may not have looked a champion that day, but it wasn't long before things were looking up.
It was a 2 furlong jump out at Mentone, and we didn't want to show him up too much because by that stage we had known that he had a good deal of ability. And we thought we'd jump out and just go half a furlong and pull him up. But I couldn't pull him up. He ran quicker time than any other trial, and well, he was just too good for them.
His first trip to the races was for the Debutante Stakes at Caulfield.
That particular day he was too fast, and he came out of the boxes and stumbled. And, well, I thought that's the finish of that. It was a 900-metre race. And I thought that's the finish of that. And Shako was a horse from Adelaide, and he was pretty well fancied. He was in odds on. But he picked himself up and he went on and won the race. Unfortunately, he hurt his joint. He was always bandaged in the stable after that.
After an 8-length win in the Maribyrnong Plate, Vane was rested until the autumn.
And now Hyland releases the brakes, and it's going to be a matter of Vane first and the rest nowhere. Vane's won it about 8 lengths.
At his next start, he continued on his winning way, first up in the Merson Cooper Stakes. Next stop, the VRC Sires Produce.
At the furlong, Hyland looks round. He still won't release the brakes. At 6 in front, Vane. Now he says you can stretch out a little bit, and Vane comes down to the line.
Maloney and Hyland were now convinced that they had the 2-year-old who would become the first Victorian to win the Rich Golden Slipper Stakes.
On the day there was great excitement naturally, and I just walking out of the mounting yard, and Jim Maloney turned to me and he said, Jack, Vane will win. And Jim very rarely says that. I went out and backed Vane at 1. Well, it's the first Victorian to win.
Racing this time, Special Girl flew out of the boxes. However, Vane got out better.
Vane jumped brilliantly from the boxes, and well, you know, looking back on it, it was terribly easy. You know, he just spaced them. I never saw a horse the whole race. From the time we left the barrier, I never saw a horse at all, and you know, it was quite a good feeling.
Special Girl, and they're followed by Del Riado, then the Talas, At the head of the others, Brooklyn made Lady Cleave's constant rhythm, then Gaelic Spirit and Toddmaster, and Peter's Empire last of all, but Vane the leader as they made the run around the turn. Well clear of Special Girl, hard ridden by Moore. Then a gap to Del Riado, followed by Natella Sophia. At the head of the others, Lady Cleaves, the leader Vane in the streets. Under the whip, Special Girl not making much impression. They're followed by Del Riado and Gaelic Spirit finishing on well, but the Victorian Colt Vane has got it shot to bits. Safely holding Special Girl and Del Riado and Peter's Empire flashing home along the rail, but Vane is all too good, and Vane in the run of the judge, a big winner. Second, Peter's Empire, third, Gaelic Spirit, then Del Riado.
It was terribly emotional feeling for all of us, because I think the year before, the season before, we'd won one race in the bush from the stable. And, you know, and then to get a horse like Vane, to be able to go there and win the richest race in Australia, or richest two-year-old race anyway, it was an emotional time, and it was probably one of those periods of time where you didn't really get the full climax of it until some time after. You know, I find myself now talking more saner and more sensible about Vane than I did when Vane was there.
Vane was now being compared with Todman. Coincidentally, Vane did manage to emulate Todman in the AJC Sires produce at Randwick. Both colts were sent out 6-1 on favourite, and both were beaten.
I told the owners, I said, if we're going to get beaten in a race, this could be it. But I said, if we get beaten, we'll still have a horse.
With the benefit of a hard run in the Sires, Vane returned to his brilliant best.
That was his best run in Sydney, including the Golden Slipper. I think that through having had a couple of runs around that way, he started to get to like it.
Vane's stake earnings of just under $85,000 were the highest ever for a two-year-old. He was the golden boy of Australian racing. Before he commenced his three-year-old year, an offer of $1 million was made by American interests. Owners Wally, Fred and George Johnson refused the offer.
I can remember Frank Thompson from Widdenstad, he came down here to see him at these stables. And he said, someone said to him, that's the horse, would you know, and they tendered for him. And he just stood there leaning over the door for 10 minutes. And they were trying to get him away to look at other horses, but he just kept walking back to Vane. He was wrapped in him, you know, he was enraptured by him.
He commenced his three-year-old year winning the Weight for Age Freeway Stakes by 5 lengths under a tight hold. In the Ascot Vale, he won in similar fashion.
Yes, I got suspended on him. That's probably one of the most unforgivable things that any jockey should to say they were suspended riding Vane, because he had so much speed on the others. But I think it was just probably overconfidence that caused that. And it was a pretty good field, the Ascot Vale. Darrell's Joy and Woodcourt Inn. They, you know, after that they proved that they were pretty good horses.
Highland was replaced by Roy Higgins and watched the Moonee Valley Stakes from the grandstand.
I suppose if he was ever going to be beaten again, that was the race, because it was his first attempt at a mile. And a mile at Moonee Valley is probably the hardest mile of all. And he went into it with a strange jockey. Not that that throws any light on Roy, but, you know, I knew the horse backwards.
Vane gained revenge over Darrell's Joy in the Caulfield Guineas, beating him easily by 3 lengths. Darrell's Joy went on to win the Cox Plate and the Victoria Derby. But it was during the 1969 Melbourne Cup Carnival that Vane sealed his greatness. In the space of just 7 days, he won 3 feature events, the first of which was the Cravenay Stakes.
To the plaudits of the crowd is out 8 lengths in front of Dollars Double and Our Faith, and how about this for a machine? And he's got 20,000 for that. Vane went on to win by 10 lengths.
Vane's winning margin of 12 lengths is the biggest ever recorded in a major handicap. On Oaks Day, Vane smashed the course record for 7 furlongs at Flemington in winning the Weight for Age Linlithgow Stakes, beating the class racehorse Black Onyx by 6 lengths. Vane completed his Cup Carnival assault in the George Adams handicap over a mile, carrying 10 pounds more than Weight for Age. Unfortunately, it was to be Vane's last race, as he suffered a leg injury while preparing for a return to racing the following autumn.
I'd never seen a horse win with the ease that he used to win with, you know, and he's only got beaten twice out of 14 starts, so I think that I don't like comparing him with other fellas' horses because you don't want to make enemies over things like that, but he was a pretty special horse, very special.
Vane was such a great horse, and probably he came at a time when both Jim and I, we needed that type of horse, and it was like a gift from heaven.
Vane was retired to Wooden Stud in the Hunter Valley of New South Wales, where he went on to prove that he was the complete horse, a champion on the racetrack and at the stud.
From Amberdew, but Century sprinted away and the Omen Tips won the money. Century's drawing right away to win by 2 lengths.
Century, the brilliant sprinter miler of the early 70s, who was blessed with the perfect physique. Well, almost perfect.
He had a roach back. He had a sort of a half a hump on his back behind the saddle, and he always gave you the impression you were galloping downhill with him all the time.
Century had won 4 on the trot before starting favourite in the Blue Diamond Stakes of 72.
Roses led from John's Hope, nothing much in it though from Century coming at them, and then Clinging Vine, Friar's Joy, Blue Mountain. John's Hope got to the front, Make Mine Roses has gone, Century out after John's Hope at the furlong, and then Clinging Vine and Friar's Joy. John's Hope in front, Century trying hard, hands and heels, he won't pull the whip on it. He's gradually getting to John's Hope now, John's Hope still in line. It's going to be close, Century gradually grabbing it, they've hit the line, dead heat.
Even the jockeys weren't sure who had won.
Kevin Langby rode John's Hope, and I said, I think I just got you. And Kevin said, he said, you got me all right. He said, you beat me by a good head.
However, both jockeys were wrong, as the Sydney colt got the verdict. The judge didn't need his camera at Century's next outing, as he was a clear winner in the VRC Sires Produce at Flemington. After 2 unplaced runs in Sydney, Century continued north to winter in Queensland.
Well, he had a bit of arthritis in the sacroiliac area through the roach pack, and that probably was the reason why he isn't continue training on until you gave him a spacious races well apart. And it did work because at the finish he had a very good record.
The benefit of that warm winter sun was evident when Century had his first start at Weight for Age.
Acidity well clear with 300 metres out. Century starting to peg him back a little bit. And here's Kazanlik coming with a big run. Longfellows gone. Acidity 2 lengths to Century into the straight, and Kazanlik out wide. Century and Kazanlik coming at the leader. Acidity weakening. Century got to the lead. Kazanlik's grabbing them out wide. Century in front though, and he's too good. Century comes away to win by a length to Acidity.
Higgins was unable to make the weight in the freeway, but renewed his association with the colt in the Ascot Vale Stakes, the first of many feature race wins down the Flemington Straight 6. There were some who thought Century was too brilliant to get a mile, especially around the tough Moonee Valley circuit.
But Century's coasting at the 300, moved to Acidity and raced to the lead on the corner. He's going to get a big break into the straight. He's 3 lengths in front of Acidity, Carnation for me, Fleet Endeavour and then Cardinal. But Century's going to walk in. He's 5 in front halfway down the straight. And the colt's going to win by a minute. Carnation for me in second placing, but Century's won by 5 lengths.
After that classy win at Moonee Valley, he started odds-on in the Caulfield Guineas. But yet another emerging star was on the horizon. But Century showed that he doesn't give up without a fight.
Century's gone, might be lucky to run a drum. And Sobar at the 200 drew away from Acidity. 4 lengths away Century, followed by the fixer Gold Brick and Grey Abbey. But this will challenge for the favouritism in the Caulfield Cup. Sobar, Century's running on well again now, but Sobar will win by 4 lengths to Century. A length and a half third Acidity.
Following his run in the Guineas, the signs were there that Century's arthritic problem was a concern.
He had a lot of ability, but he did have a rather delicate horse to train.
That's when the arthritis, I used to note at the track in the morning, it'd take you a lot longer to warm him up. And the further he got into a preparation, the less effective his oomph was.
He returned in the autumn fresh and fighting fit. His prime target, Flemington and the Straight 6.
I'd have to look at his win in the Newmarket Handicap as a 3-year-old as probably the highlight of his career. It was he was an Omen tip in that race. It was I think it was the 100th running of the Newmarket Handicap, and he was aptly named Century.
In front, Century's grabbed him with Torto and Idaloo from Amber Dew, but Century sprinted away and the Omen tips won the money. Century's drawing right away to win by 2 lengths.
He treated Australia's best sprinters with contempt and smashed the race record. But there was a price.
Well, you know, I suppose you've got to then again look at it from a handicapper's point of view. He carried overweight for ages as a 3-year-old to beat open class horses in the Newmarket Handicap, and you are then going to pay the penalty because he'd proven that with that extra poundage that he was better than the horses around at that time.
Century then ran second on 3 occasions in Sydney. One of those was over the tough Randwick Mile in the Doncaster Handicap, conceding the good mare Anna Lee 8 kilograms. The colt with the roach back had enjoyed a great 3-year-old career with 4 wins and 5 seconds at Group 1 level. Century returned at 4 to win 2 feature sprints, both down the straight 6.
As he went on and started to get older, around corners, he didn't have the same drive as what he had down when travelling on a straight course. I think that's why in the latter stages of his career, his best races were down the straight.
Down the outside, I'm Scarlet well clear with Century after him. I think the outside horses are in front. I'm Scarlet out wide. On the inside, it's Cut and Deal, Valley Moss, Gay Blade and St Mervyn and Galdare. I'm Scarlet, and here comes Century now with a big run. I'm Scarlet the leader, Century the challenger. Century raced to I'm Scarlet, put his head in front. On the inside is Galdare, but Century in front near the line. He's too good. Century's won it, scored by about 1 length.
Century returned in the Lightning Stakes. It was time for revenge on John's Hope.
Well, I suppose we deserved to win that one.
Racing, Century got away reasonably well, so too did John's Hope. Bon Cherie was first out. From out wider, John's Hope going fast. Workman vying for the lead, and Idaloo's now joined them also with Scottish Charger. They were followed by Tangent coming into it quickly out wide, and then Sabamas racing up to the leaders. Idaloo got to the rails with Workman a length to Tangent, and Sabamas a length and a half Scottish Charger. John's Hope moving up stylishly. Then New Gleam, Scottish Charger the fence a length and a half Century, and forget about the rest. As they went to the 400 and Idaloo skipped away. 2 lengths in front of Workman. John's Hope hooked to the outside from Sabamas and then Tangent. Century starting to wind up at the 300 is coming hard. Idaloo finding nothing. John's Hope's grabbed him quickly. Here's Century out after him. John's Hope got to the lead now from Idaloo. Century coming at him like a train on the outside. John's Hope grabbed by Century close to the line, and Century's too good. He comes away to win by nearly a length to John's Hope.
Century was then asked to carry 61 kilograms in his attempt to win back-to-back Newmarkets. However, he was unable to produce his customary brilliant acceleration and was retired to stud shortly after, where he surpassed his brilliant career on the track and became a champion stallion.
It was a pleasure to train him, really, because he was an individual himself. He had to plan his racing and work from day to day pretty well, and it was quite satisfying when you did win the group races with him, because it was sort of a personal effort to get him where he was.
But he was a lovely horse to be associated with. He was a kind horse, and once again, like most champions, most good horses, they're a jockey's dream. They're good to ride. Century certainly, in my opinion, can hold his head high, because he was certainly amongst the best.
Sticking with him. This is not going to be easy. Sobar's a neck in front. Diana under the whip, staying with him. Sobar just the leader, then Longfella. Diana drew level with Sobar. Diana's doing better. It's a boil over. Diana got to the lead and won it ahead to Sobar.
Some horses are remembered better in defeat than victory. When narrowly beaten by Diana in the 72 Victoria Derby, Sobar became one of those horses.
And anyway, as you come back in, as I was walking up the race, I thought to myself, my own words, and this is going from my mind, well, I'm not going to let the people get in that way. I'm just going to come back and say I rode a bad race. And I took the full blame, and it's the worst thing I ever have said in my life, because I got hounded by press and and punters, and I'm still getting it. I'm still getting it, but I probably fell in love with the horse so much that I took the blame for him. You know what I mean? And it was just an error for me. I should have come in and told the truth. I should have said the horse had an injury and probably would have been accepted. But that's what you do when you fall in love.
The love affair began several months prior to the Derby.
We went to Caulfield and we duly won the race by 3 from memory now. Could have been, the margin might have been even further. I know he ran a smart time and it was a really good win, you know. And straight away I knew that we had a horse above average. And Ken Hilton asked me what I thought of his, could he make up to a Guineas horse? And I said, yeah, no worries. So he immediately spelled him, and with that in mind, and concentrated on bringing him back for later.
Trainer Ken Hilton had believed in Sobar's potential before the colt had raced. As an early 3-year-old, his opinion was justified. Having only his 5th start in a race, Sobar was to be tested against seasoned weight-for-age performers.
From memory now, he was tucked away, and he should have won the race. He was tucked away in a hopeless pocket, and I never got out on him until too late. And he ran 3rd, I would say. He's got beaten 2 short half heads, but everyone in the course knew he was an absolute certainty beaten.
Sobar trying to get out. Hampton's Pride is snookered also, and then Gay Icarus and Red Hope. It's Gossiper getting to Royal Show about 50 metres out. They're going stride for stride. Royal Show's fighting back. Oh, maybe Gossiper beat Royal Show, but there's only a nostril in it. Sobar probably 3rd in front of
The cat was well and truly out of the bag.
Well, the Underwood Stakes is a good guy to the Caulfield Cup, and associated with that is also good horses. So, and to him to start a hot favourite in the race, but he really treated the horses without respect. He just beat them that way too. He was too good for him.
Tordo led on the turn with Sobar moving up to tackle him as they swing around the turn into the straight. They've both hung 2 lengths away, Gossiper and Royal Show, but Sobar took the lead, the 3-year-old. At the 150s, tackled by Royal Show, Gossiper. Then Double Irish and Gay Icarus running on fairly, but Sobar in front. He's a length and a half in front of Royal Show with 100 metres to go. He's got it well won, Sobar. He's a mile too good. Kazanlik's going to fly home and run 2nd.
With an easy weight-for-age win to his credit, Sobar headed for the Caulfield Guineas.
But the boom horse at that time was Century, Bart Cummings' horse, and Bart thought he was unbeatable, and Roy Higgins did also. But I also knew that I knew how good Sobar was, and I went to the races very confident. And I must admit, I think I was 2nd favourite in the race, but I was racing alongside Century going over the hill at the 1,000, and as we got down to the 800, I was just, Sobar just said, well, I've just got sick of this game, and I just let him stride, and he just went to the front, 800 from home, and he just careered away and beat Century by six lengths. That's how good he was.
At the 600, Sobar White's gone. He's put Century in a pocket, and Sobar's sprinting to the lead with 600 to go. He's gone up the joint acidity, 2 lengths now to Arabian Breeze, and Century hard ridden. 2 further back, the Fixer Cardinal, and a gap further back, Grey Abbey. On the turn, 450 out, and Sobar coasted to acidity. They're 2.5 lengths to Century, who's in trouble. Sobar took the lead when they straightened. Century's gone, might be lucky to run a drum. And Sobar at the 200 drew away from acidity. 4 lengths away, Century, followed by the Fixer, Gold Brick and Grey Abbey. But this will challenge for the favouritism in the Caulfield Cup. Sobar, Century's running on well again now, but Sobar will win by 4 lengths to Century. 1.5 lengths third acidity.
Owner Keith Southwick remembers Sobar's great win, down to the 2nd.
He ran the distance in 136.2, which equalled Vane's record, and that stayed until very recently.
The pinnacle of Sobar's short but brilliant career was just a week away.
He was an anxious racehorse. He wanted to get out there and just beat them, you know, as quick as he could. Just probably like a Jeff Fennick. He wanted to get down and knock out in the first round. I got over the hill about the 1,000 there in the Caulfield Cup, and there were stormy seas in it, guns then. That was a really good year that year. And down to the 800 again, He was just wanting to get on with the race, and I just had to let him stride. And I can still remember Bill Collins saying, and here he goes White, he's taken off on Sobar, and he just dashed around the field and straightened up with a lead of 3 or 4 lengths, and nothing made any ground on him. He just run him in. They were tired chasing him. Good horses too, they were. They just were tired chasing him. It was an absolute freak horse.
At the 700, it's Sobar by 2 lengths to Lord Nelson. Third, Stormy Seas, dropping out Scotch and Dry. They're followed by Hampton's Pride. Gunsin coming around them hard. Gay Icarus in trouble. And Grand Scale, but with 500 to go. Sobar looked to be coasting. 2 lengths now to Sheriff. They're followed by Grand Scale, Gunsin, Hampton's Pride, Stormy Seas. Into the straight, the 3-year-olds, 3 lengths in front, Sobar. From Sheriff, Stormy Seas, the challenger now. Sheriff's gone from Gunsin. Then Grand Scale at the 200. Sobar a length and a half clear. Stormy Seas and Gunsin trying, but the 3-year-old's too good. He mightn't be a Tulloch, but he's not far short of it. And Sobar's won by 2 lengths.
Sobar then looked unbeatable in the Derby. However, there are conflicting stories regarding his fitness leading up to the race. Owner Keith Southwick and Brian Ralph, foreman for the late Ken Hilton, are adamant that the horse was free of any injury.
Now, it's my belief that really the horse should never run in the Derby. He wasn't himself. And anyway, I went out to riding track work there on the Tuesday prior to the Derby, and I was told, basically, just to watch turning him quickly or anything, that it might just hurt his joint. And that's all I was told.
Well, the horse had been in perfect order, I might say, before the Derby run.
Derby day, when I got on his back and the atmosphere and everything, I just knew the horse was uptight and he just wasn't himself.
He was ridden in extraordinary fashion by White. He had him out very, very wide from the turn out of the straight, and he kept him that way with the horse pulling against him up. He was up near the lead, but out very wide.
And Ken Hilton stressed on me that day I was tied down to instructions not to lead, and that I couldn't win him like riding him in the same way that I won the Caulfield Cup, that I had to hold him up for a late run. So this was in my mind, and I've got a wide barrier, short run of the turn, so I did the best I could. Went out of the straight and I was running third, but never ever quite got in. I just missed getting in behind the 2 leaders because of the slow pace. Anyway, Sobar started to hang out all the way up along the Merbalong side of the track here.
Horse then went to the front, and I think if he'd left him alone, Diana had a charm run, and then was under hard riding by Higgins with the whip. If he'd let him go, he would still have won. But then he did the thing which this horse, from the very beginning, wouldn't tolerate. He went for the whip. And of course the horse was trying to savage the whip from him.
He was still such a great horse that it took a champion stayer in Diana to really, and he only just run him down the last half a furlong or so in the race.
Sobar a little restless, settles down now. Ready, racing this time. Arabian Breeze and Carnation for me with the first out, with the fixer going fast. Salvo, Longfella and Gala Red there. Sobar on the outside, and they're followed by Aberfoyle on the fence. Diana pushing through, and Euripides and Monvan were last with Better Sands in front of them. Out of the straight, Arabian Breeze led. Sobar caught 4 or 5 wide. At the 1,600 metres, and the leader, Arabian Breeze, one of the fixers. Sobar's fighting hard with White. He's got out 4 or 5 wide at this stage. He'd be about 4th. Carnation for me. Gala Red inside him, and plenty of room between Sobar and those horses. On the turn, 600 out, and Arabian Breeze joined by the fixer who's under pressure. A length Carnation for me, and Sobar, who's never been on the track. The fixer took a narrow lead as they straightened now. From Arabian Breeze, Sobar pulled out to take the run now. From Carnation for me and Diana, and Longfella trying to get through, but Sobar coasted to the lead at the 200 with Diana going with him from the fixer, Longfella. Then Carnation for me. Sobar's hard-ridden. Diana sticking with him. This is not going to be easy. Sobar's a neck in front. Diana under the whip, staying with him. Sobar just the leader, then Longfella. Diana drew level with Sobar. Diana's doing better. It's a boil over. Diana got to the lead and won it ahead to Sobar.
After the race, of course, I asked White, what was he doing? He said, he apologised to me and said he rode a bad race.
Following the Derby, Sobar was rested. While being prepared by Hilton for an autumn campaign, he suffered a tendon injury.
Archie McClements had rung me a number of times, and he has a reputation, or had a reputation then and still has, for treating horses with tendon problems. Anyway, I decided with Hilton's consent to give the horse to McClements in the short term. It was intended to bring it back to Hilton to see what he could do with it, and he worked on it. And of course, subsequently, Hilton had a second heart attack, and was decided to leave it with McClements. Of course, it wasn't long after that that Hilton passed away too, which was very sad. McClements, I say, worked on the horse and corrected the tendon problem.
Indeed he did. Sobar contested 3 weight-for-age races in the spring of '73. But he wasn't the Sobar of old. His new trainer, Arch McClements, rested Sobar until the autumn, when he called on the services of an old mate, Mick Malyon.
I went into this race at Flemington in a pretty hot field, and I had a good feeling that he might get the money.
Sobar holding Asgard at bay at the 250. 3 lengths to Longfellow, all shot running on well now, but again the post is going to be too close today. Sobar in front holding Asgard, and then all shot running on, but not as well as usual, and Sobar's going to win. 1.5 lengths to Asgard, 2 lengths to all shot third.
The champ was back, and doing it in style.
He really won to me like as what I'd seen him and do as a 3-year-old when Harry White used to ride him. He absolutely annihilated them.
Sobar, given his head, went away 2 lengths to Anali at the 200, 5 lengths on Sedon, and they're followed then by Gala Supreme. But Sobar, he hasn't moved on him. He's well clear, and the old champ's proved he's right back to his best. He's going to win by 2.5 lengths to Anali. 4 lengths away third, Gala Supreme. He's hard-held Sobar at the line.
Feeling was that Sobar was back to his best. But not even his big heart could overcome the difficulties he and Mick Malyon experienced in the Australian Cup.
And mate, when they got to that corner there, 3 furlongs out of Flemington, I thought I was in the ring with bloody Joe Louis, because he got that many buffeting and punches there that he was lucky to even finish the race.
Sobar was later tried with another trainer, but continuing leg problems forced his retirement from racing. Free of injury, Sobar was an outstanding racehorse. No horse of the time could match him at his best. Legendary racecaller Bill Collins certainly had a high opinion of the champ who wouldn't lay down.
But the 3-year-old's too good. He mightn't be a tulloch, but he's not far short of it. And Sobar's won by 2 lengths. Taj Rossi starting to fly. Millfleur's in front. Taj Rossi's grabbing it quickly. Taj Rossi's going to get up again. He's won. Taj Rossi a half length to Millfleur's.
Never before had a 3-year-old dominated a spring carnival in Melbourne as Taj Rossi did in 1973. And it was a vintage year for 3-year-olds, with colts like Grand Sidium and Imageal on the scene. It started for Taj Rossi like this.
Well, I first saw him walking around the South Australian sales in Adelaide, sale yards and the showgrounds where the sales held in those days, and he just caught my eye as something pretty special and unusual, and I watched him for a couple of days and finally bought him, and I haven't regretted it naturally. Sold it to Vic Peters about a couple of months after that.
Not long after the sales, fate played its hand. Melbourne businessman Vic Peters happened to be travelling on the same Adelaide-bound plane as Cummings. Before they reached Adelaide, the Matrice colt had found an owner.
Yeah, I sat alongside him, he couldn't get away. But he was procrastinating for quite a month or so, and finally made his mind up, and he agreed to buy the horse, and it's been a very happy association ever since.
And the unusual name?
Now, Taj Rossi was out of Dark Queen by Coronation Boy. Consequently, he had a royal line. And Taj in Arabic means crown, and Rossi means my head. So it's the mother who's called him Taj Rossi, crown of my head.
After 3 promising runs in Adelaide, Taj Rossi arrived in Melbourne.
I felt right from the outset that when I first was to ride him track work, when he arrived over from Adelaide, that I thought then that, hello, Bart's come up with another one.
Taj Rossi's 2 wins near the end of his 2-year-old year certainly didn't indicate the heights he was destined to scale in the spring.
But Taj Rossi will beat them all if he gets through. Taj Rossi goes for the rail split, draws level, it's 4 in line. Taj Rossi and now New Gleam on the outside from Sincere Pride, but Taj Rossi in front. and he's going to be much too good. Taj Rossi wins by 2 lengths to New Gleam, a neck away.
He then shouldered a hefty 61 kilograms to victory at Moonee Valley before stepping up to a mile at the same track a week later.
Taj Rossi was a horse that during the running of the race, once you started to get into the heat of the moment at about the 600 metre mark, you could feel him strengthen up. And he just gave you that, you'd lose confidence when you're riding him. You'd look at the horses around you and say, well, I've already got you guys beat.
On the home turn, Purple Patch by 2 lengths to Taj Rossi, who's under pressure. Higgins has gone for the whip into the straight. Purple Patch by 2 lengths to Taj Rossi, who's coming at it quickly. Purple Patch is tackled by Taj Rossi on the outside. Taj Rossi got a jet in front, starting to draw away, and Taj Rossi for the money. Has Too Good has won by 3/4 of a length to Purple Patch.
But even the mighty can sometimes fall. In the Guineas, it wasn't Taj Rossi's day.
Taj Rossi was a horse that suffered from claustrophobia, and once he was caged up in the starting gates, if there was any movement or any noise around him, he had one thing in mind, and he just wanted out. He would go forward, he'd go back. Even though from the incident in the starting gates, during the running of the race I had no luck. I had classic horses around me all the time, and things just didn't go right. And you know, I've got no doubt he should have won that race, but that's the luck of racing.
Taj Rossi then took on Australia and New Zealand's best weight-for-age horses in the Cox Plate.
You got to be in it to win it. If you've got the colt there that's sound and well, and got the potential to win, you've got to try and get him in the race, which fortunately he was accepted, and because he won the Ascot Stakes, he's eligible, I suppose, and he won it.
Higgins couldn't make Taj Rossi's weight in the Cox Plate, and champion apprentice Stan Aitken was his replacement.
He was a cool rider, and a boy that liked to listen. And naturally, I had a week's notice that he was going to ride him, so I must say I did think I punished Stan Dew a little bit for a week.
With 400 to go, Like a Lover's gone, Swell Time hit the front. And led by a length on the turn to Taj Rossi tackling at Zambari, and here's Glenn Gowan out wide putting in his claim. They're followed by Craig Wynn and Strike again. On the turn, Swell Time joined by Taj Rossi, 2 lengths to Zambari. Glenn Gowan getting hampered by Zambari. It's Taj Rossi and Swell Time clear. 2 lengths to Zambari and Glenn Gowan off the course. Taj Rossi ahead in front, Swell Time coming at it again from Zambari. Taj Rossi and Swell Time stride for stride. Taj Rossi ahead in front, and he's won it.
His tenacious win captured the public's imagination. However, Cummings and Higgins disagreed about his Derby chances.
The horse just couldn't stay. He wasn't a 2,500 metre horse by no means, but his superior ability at set weights against his own age, it panned out right on the day. Even though I had a very, very rough run in the race, he was still capable of winning.
He was a mile and a half horse, right? He won the Derby pretty easily, and we beat Like a Lover, the stablemate. Peter Cook rode Like a Lover, and he told me at the furlong pace thought he had it won pretty easily. He cruised the lead. He put 2 lengths on very quickly and just sort of cased the line, and Taj Rossi came from second last at the 600 metre mark, turning into the straight.
Both Taj Rossi second last with Bushwin. Into the straight, Imogil had quickly raced up to hit the front, tackled immediately by Hasluck. They were followed by Asgard, taken to the outside, and Prince Shifnal. And Like a Lover, Cooks got right up along the inside rail. Then Craig Wynn and Taj Rossi hooked out. Imogil the leader, Like a Lover and Prince Shifnal trying to get to it. 2 lengths away, Craig Wynn and Taj Rossi. Like a Lover put his head in front on the fence. Imogil's gone. Taj Rossi's running on solidly. Like a Lover broke clear. Taj Rossi coming home hard. Like a Lover getting tired. Taj Rossi picking him up. Higgins riding hard. Taj Rossi's got him and won.
Taj Rossi had dominated, but the spring wasn't over yet. Just 1 week later, he took on Australia's best milers. As good as he was, many believed he was being asked to perform the impossible.
All the experts said that he'd never win the George Adams after running a mile and a half and coming back to the mile. Anyway, you know what happened there. He beat the best milers in the land at the time.
It's just a matter of putting his saddling on and collect the stake money.
Time at the 700 metre mark now, and the leader was Portico, a neck in front of Valley Moss. I'm Scarlet 3 deep, 4 wide Bastille Bigger. Millfleurs parked in on the fence behind them, and they were followed by Lord Nelson trying to ease off the rails from Kister. Zambari out wide. Lord Nelson in trouble getting a run. All shot still second last. Taj Rossi fourth last. At the 300 and Valley Moss about to be tackled with Portico by Millfleurs, who grabbed them quickly. Zambari running on fairly, and out wide Toltrease Romantic Sun, but Millfleurs shot well clear at the 200. She's more than 2 lengths in front of Toltrease. Taj Rossi starting to fly. Millfleurs in front. Taj Rossi's grabbing it quickly. Taj Rossi's going to get up again. He's won. Taj Rossi a half length to Millfleurs.
And then Bart put him in again in the Sandown Guineas a week later. And I said to him, horses are not machines, Bart. I think he's had enough. And he said, while they're winning, you run them.
On the home turn, under 400 left, or just over 400 left to go, and Noma first into the straight from Imagil. Taj Rossi is now starting to wind up quickly on the outside around the home turn, down to the 300-metre mark, and Imagil's gone to the lead, beaten off Noma. Taj Rossi is now joining in on the outside, and they've drawn well clear. Nandavilas running on. Imagil and Taj Rossi settling down to fight it out. There's nothing between them. Imagil the rails, Taj Rossi the outside. Taj Rossi got about a hit on Imagil, which is battling back well. Here's a great go. Taj Rossi starting to draw away, and Taj Rossi has won it by, I'd say, about a half nick on the line to Imagil.
Sadly, Taj Rossi never recaptured the brilliant form he displayed during that memorable spring of 1973.
He was the best 3-year-old colt that I ever rode. We never ever got to see his true ability because of a massive virus that he got in the latter stages of his 3-year-old career, and going after the very successful spring campaign and coming back into the autumn, and he was never the same horse.
Taj Rossi's champion qualities were recognised internationally by the powerful Spendthrift Farm in Kentucky. He stood for several seasons alongside America's best stallions before his return to Australia in 1977. Back at home, he sired an Oaks winner in Taj Eclipse. Fittingly, she was raced by Victor Peters and trained by Cummings.
Taj Eclipse on the outside has won the Oaks. Taj Eclipse has won it a great performance.
And Magistrate running on fairly well inside the
on training horses.
The only way you find out whether the horse is any good is keep racing them.
And we were about to. Family of Man confirmed his potential with a fighting second to surround in the Caulfield Guineas before his game third in the Victoria Derby.
He ran a great race in the Derby. When the whole three of them went over the line together, it was just a matter of who got the stride in that one. But I thought it was a great run.
Following the Derby, Family of Man headed to Western Australia. It was a journey he had to make several times during his career.
I think it's good when you're taking one away to win. If you win, it's always good, but the taste is not quite as good when you get beaten.
Montax and then So Fine. On the turn, Chastabilitta nearly a length of Savoy under pressure, who drifted off the track, and Family of Man's got the split. Chastabilitta in front with Family of Man out after it. Savoy's gone, and then Montax. Family of Man sprinted to the lead with 100 metres to go, and the Australian Derby's over. Family of Man coming away from Chastabilitta. So Fine running on out wide from Montax. As they get near the line, Family of Man's won at a length and a quarter, Chastabilitta.
Less than 3 months after his Derby win, Family of Man sprinted brilliantly, breaking the 1,400-metre record at Flemington in the presence of Queen Elizabeth. Remember the filly that Family of Man dead-heated with as a 2-year-old? Well, they were at it again, this time at Moonee Valley.
Into the straight they race, and Desirable and the Weenie surround, and Family of Man trying to peg them back, but Desirable and the Weenie fighting it out. Family of Man's doing better than anything with Surround. Family of Man got to the leaders with Surround. Family of Man took the lead, and Family of Man just in front. It's close.
This time they dead-heated. Family of Man's 4-year-old career was undoubtedly his best. From 16 starts, he failed to collect prize money only once.
Unaware led into the straight, and Nectar Vice Regal with Family of Man coming at them, but Unaware kicked away. He shot 2 lengths in front into the straight. Vice Regal's gone. Family of Man's coming at the leader. Then Royal Cadenza, it's Unaware, but Family of Man's grabbing him quickly. Family of Man's race to the leader, 100 metres to go from Unaware, and Royal Cadenza coming home well. Family of Man just in front, and he's going to win it. And Family of Man's won at a length to Unaware, a neck away third, Royal Cadenza.
Caulfield Cup, he didn't get a good run in the race. He had to do a lot of work, and he wasn't far behind him. I thought he was a little unlucky in the Caulfield Cup. That's why I started him in the Cox Plate. And I thought his run was excellent in the Cox Plate. They went off at a fast speed. Luskin Star led. He was at his best at that time. He led, and he set a crackling pace.
Vice Regal has been joined by Luskin Star at the 600. Raffendale's being hard ridden. I think he's gone the grey. Family of Man's gone past him now from Unaware and Belmura Lad. As they came to the turn, the leaders, Vice Regal and Luskin Star, with Family of Man, the challenger. Then Raffendale, Unaware, locked in on the fence. He's gone for the whip on Luskin Star. Family of Man has raced to the lead from Luskin Star, Vice Regal. Raffendale coming again, and they're followed then by Unaware, but Family of Man's in front. And Raffendale's running on well, but Family of Man causes a surprise. He's going to win by a half length to Raffendale. Vice Regal third.
Family of Man's win in the Cox Plate was the pinnacle of his career. It guaranteed him a place in turf history, along with the many other champions that have won Australasia's greatest weight-for-age race. But there was more to come, as he returned in the autumn to win 3 more races at weight-for-age. Hanlon kept Family of Man busy as a 5-year-old, and the horse responded in typical fashion. He'd won the Craigley Stakes before attempting consecutive wins in the Cox Plate.
So-called second last. Down to the judge. Caraman's driving through on the rails with Lemur to join Howberk and Fralo 4 deep. Then Family of Man, Marceau the fence from Vice Regal, Salamander. They were followed by So-Called commencing a run. Salamander is next, and then Panamin on the turn, and Prunella headed by Justice Steele with Caraman the centre. Family of Man 4 wide, and here's So-Called pushing through. Lemure's well beaten. Caraman took the lead from Family of Man. So-Called trying to get between them, blocked for room. Family of Man got to the front. So-Called came at it from Caraman. So-Called and Family of Man. So-Called put his head in front, and So-Called coming away with the Cox Plate. He's won at a length and a half. Close to the minors. Dead heat. Family of Man, Caraman.
Then it was on to Flemington, where he defeated the New Zealand mare, La Mare, in the McKinnon Stakes. 1 week later, he reached another milestone. He became the first horse in Australian racing history to win $500,000.
I remember then balancing him up, because he had a huge weight, and waiting. And whilst I'm doing this, I'm looking to the inside and the outside, looking for dangers and how they're summing up the opposition. And he was just absolutely just like he was just doing track work.
Family of Man's got shoved back. Romantic Dreams bolting but can't get a run at the 300-metre mark now, and Always Welcome's beaten. Arbrachane took the lead. Family of Man coming home hard out wide, but Arbrachane clear. Family of Man pegging it back, followed by Rooney. Family of Man's raced up to the leader, then For All Seasons, and here's the new record holder. Family of Man clear. Cool Minstrel coming home hard near the line, but Family of Man canters in.
He then made another winning hit-and-run visit to Western Australia. Family of Man continued to run well before being sold for stud duties to leading businessman Robert Holmes-a-Court. After only 1 season at stud, it was decided that Family of Man would return to racing.
He'd come back, and he hadn't altered a bit. He was quite good. Put on a little more condition, got a bit bigger. That was the only thing. He ran pretty good. He ran up. I thought his form was very good. You know, although he was running seconds and that, but I think he may have been unlucky in a couple of races.
The Iron Horse's swan song came at the provincial racecourse of Pinjarra in Western Australia. Fittingly, he went out a winner.
This is his last race. Can he see it out? Brecon Castle is flooding home. Family of Man in front, close to home. And the grand old galloper has won. You beauty! Family of Man has won the Sunspeed side from Brecon Castle.
Tobin Bronze was one of the most handsome horses ever to race in Australia, and he had the ability to match. He won 24 races in Australia, but it's the last of these wins, his second Cox Plate, that his trainer Graham Hegney and jockey Jim Johnson remember with great admiration.
Well, to be honest, you're a man that they say you shouldn't cry, but there was tears in my eyes, and women came round crying, could I have a little bit of tail, could I have a little bit of hair? I think Bill Collins, I don't know whether he's still of the same opinion, but Bill always said it was the greatest ovation he'd ever heard in Australian racing. It was absolutely fantastic.
It's very hard to explain just how I felt. I was just elated, you know, because the horses won, the crowd's going wild, you know.
But back to when it all began.
We used to bake all our own in those days, and Kevin Keller was apprentice to me at the time. I think Kevin was first to ever ride him. And he always had that little bit of class about him, how to explain it is hard, but he just stood out above the other yearlings at the time, you know.
Tobin Bronze proved to be a good class juvenile, winning 4 of his 7 starts. The best staying 3-year-old in the spring of '65, he really came of age in the autumn of '66, winning the Blamey Stakes at Weight for Age.
Well, he was a trainer's dream, like he was an ideal horse to handle him. You could take him anywhere and he never ever got upset. The only thing that used to worry a little bit, he was a very, very free sweater. But he was such a placid horse to do anything with.
In the spring of '66, Tobin Bronze won 6 successive Weight for Age races, including his first Cox Plate. In between that amazing sequence of wins, he started the shortest price favourite in the Caulfield Cup since the mighty Tulloch.
Tobin Bronze has started a hot favourite for the Caulfield Cup, but in a roughhouse race, punters lose more than $1 million when Tobin Bronze, 11-8, finishes 6th. Galilee wins from Garlic Crest with...
That was the year that he pulled very hard in the Caulfield Cup with me, and he pulled himself out of business, and very, very disappointing.
Tobin Bronze then carried his outstanding Weight for Age form into the autumn, winning 3 more Weight for Age races before heading to Sydney.
It was a great effort in 2 ways. On the Wednesday before the Doncaster Handicap, he got colic. And we worked hard all Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night. We cured him and he got 100%. Never called the vet in, we did it ourselves. And he worked Thursday morning. I just worked him like an ordinary horse, and he came through with flying colours. And I had my son and young Frankie Ryan that went to America with him. We were sitting in the stand together, and I said, coming to the turn, he can't win because he'll run the place. I think he stood a horse called Cavachon, which turned out a real good mile horse, 6 lengths from the turn at Randwick, and 2 stone in weight, and got up and beat him on the post. That was a marvellous effort.
Before being rested for the winter, he won the Weight for Age All-Age Stakes, starting at 12-1 on. As if to prove his greatness yet again, Tobin Bronze climbed another mountain while preparing for his 5-year-old spring campaign.
I said to Graham Hegney, I said, I think something, you know, like the horse just didn't feel right.
We're taking the blood from him. He said, isn't it beautiful blood? I said, well, I hope you're right. And anyway, he rang me back 3 days after. He said, well, the horse is out. He says, forget all about the Caulfield Cup. He said, no possible chance of him getting there. I said, look, you fix him and I'll do my part. So anyway, he was lacking iron, other little details. And anyway, Greg started to work on him, and I worked on him, and we got him going, and I could see him coming back pretty quickly. I rang Greg, I said, that horse is back. He said, Graham, impossible. I said, Greg, he's doing the things he used to do. So anyway, I put him in a 6 furlong race at Moonee Valley. And nobody came to see him at Moonee Valley. I think the bounds thought he was, you know, sort of too sick a horse to be racing, and gave me the benefit of the doubt, let me do what I want to do. And Greg Morrison came to the race that day, which he very seldom does. And coming to the turn, Jimmy went to Sydney. Jimmy didn't think he was well, and Jeff Lane rode him. And coming to the turn, he's running third, and I said to Frank, well, here's my reputation. And he straightened up for home and just said to the others, I'll see you later.
He was back. And to prove it, he won the Toorak Handicap at his next start, carrying just 1 pound under 10 stone. What a horse. Next stop, the Caulfield Cup of 67.
Inside the furlong, and Johnson's got Tobin Bronze out about 1.5 lengths in front. Limit is weakening. In the centre is Pad the Way on the outside, Garson, and now Higgins bringing red-handed down the extreme outside. Tobin Bronze with his 9.10 is clear 100 yards out. Red-handed starting to bridge the gap. Johnson riding desperately hands and heels. Red-handed gradually getting to him, but Tobin Bronze is too good, and he wins the Caulfield Cup about a neck to red-handed from Garson third, and then...
I think the Caulfield Cup. Well, he's got 9 stone 10 on his back, and coming around the turn when we straightened up and gone to the front there, and I think to carry that 9 stone 10 and to keep going, and when Higgins came up alongside me on red-handed, like as red-handed was getting to me near the line, well, he just found that little bit extra to sort of fight on right to the line, you know, and I think that was the greatest thrill out of all of them.
But then the news that left his army of supporters shell-shocked. Tobin Bronze had been sold to America.
Well, the Americans had already bought him, as you realise, and they couldn't understand saddling up again the following Saturday. They don't do that a great deal in America. And I said, oh, look, it's just a matter of sending him out. And they were very anxious to get him over for the Washington International. And the plane was delayed, so that's the reason we ran him again in the Cox Plate.
Tobin Bronze's last run in Australia was in the Cox Plate. He leads on the corner from Terrific Volition on the rails, Merryweather in the centre, Craftsman the outside, and Carloom's Pride. Given full rein, Tobin Bronze dashes to the lead in the straight, and amongst great cheering from the large crowd at Moonee Valley, Tobin Bronze's last run in Australia is a success. Terrific can't stay with him, and then a gap to Craftsman, and Tobin Bronze once again showing what a great champion he is, scores in effortless style in the Cox Plate at Moonee Valley from Terrific. And
before the race, the steward said, told me, they said, now if this horse wins, if Tobin Bronze wins, make sure you trot him right back down the straight, right down to the Derby, for everybody to see him, and before you bring him in, Johnson. I said, righto. Well, when it was all over, I was up in the air too, and if I could have got off the horse halfway down the straight and let him take all the bows on his own, well, that's what I would have done.
It's a memory that will live in my life for the rest of my life. People just absolutely went mad.
Tobin Bronze left Australia in a blaze of glory.
We had 76 hours stuck on the airfield at Los Angeles. We went from Los Angeles to Washington. A trip, instead of taking 2 days, finished up taking about 4. And most of the time, the horse was stuck in the airfield in a box. And only that the sponsors of the International that year had sponsored him to come to America. He'd have never run in that race. He should never have raced it, really.
By the time race day came, he was nearly back to his... I said to Graham Higney, I said, well, Graham, if we had another week up our sleeve, you know. Anyway, as it was, he still should have won. We got badly interfered with half a mile from home, and if that hadn't have happened, he would have won.
Although he won several races in the United States before being retired to stud, Tobin Bronze never recaptured his brilliant Australian form.
And at home, it was Rain Lover and Jimmy Johnson on Melbourne Cup Day.
Australian going
right on with the job is well clear. Rain Lover at 7-1 gives Jimmy Johnson his second Melbourne Cup win. Fuller second at 20s, Fans third at 12-1 from Lowland. Savoy Archie.
Not since Archer before the turn of the century had a horse been able to win back-to-back Melbourne Cups, until Rain Lover. For a former Broken Hill miner, it was like striking gold.
I was with Graham Hegney for about 6.5 years, and then he decided to go over to Tobin Bronze. He was sold to America and wasn't firing. They, the last resort, they got Graham over there to see whether he could get him going. And I sort of, I think we had about 28 horses in work at the time. So, and Graham wasn't having the best of health. So he just told the owners what he was doing, and I ended up with about 14 horses. And lucky enough, one was Rain Lover, and the other one was Malcolm Reed's little horse won the Derby, Dale Lates. So it was a good start.
Rain Lover had won the 2-mile Adelaide Cup before Robins became his trainer. In the spring of '68, jockey Jim Johnson joined the team to complete the history-making trio.
Well, he was a different horse in the McKinnon Stakes, and I thought, well, I think I might have another champion here. That's the way he raced.
Those 3 days between the McKinnon and the Melbourne Cup are always an anxious time. How did Mick feel?
Very toughy, you know. I only had the one horse here, and you'd go home in the morning, finish pretty early, and go home, and the first thing you'd do was read get the Melbourne Sun, and there'd be always a new horse coming into with a chance.
But Rain Lover certainly didn't read the newspapers and lined up in the Cup a 7-1 chance.
Around the turn into the straight. There's 2.5 furlongs left to go, and Rain Lover has dashed to the front. It's Rain Lover from Fuller going out after him in second placing. They were being followed then by Ariosto coming into the picture, and Balhoman Star unwinding a run down the outside as Fans coming into it too, and Galilee is making a mighty effort as they race in towards the furlong post, and Rain Lover has dashed right away from them. It's Rain Lover 6 or 7 lengths out in front of Fuller. Lowland in third placing, followed by Fans, and Galilee finishing on, but they've got no hope at all, Rain Lover. He's 10-12 lengths in front, and Rain Lover scores an easy win in the Melbourne Cup. Rain Lover from Fuller in second placing.
Rain Lover's winning the Cup was outstanding. Not only did his winning margin of 8 lengths equal that of Archer's in 1862, but he recorded the fastest time ever in the history of the great race.
And my statement has always been that with all the champion horses I've had through the years, you can throw in the whole lot of them, I don't think any of them would have beat him on that particular day. I mean, he's won by 8 lengths, he's run it in record time, and I don't think any of the other champions during the years would have beat him on that day.
In the autumn, Rain Lover won 3 weight-for-age races, proving that he was more than just a 2-miler. He carried that good form into the spring of '69 in preparation for his second Cup.
When the vet took the blood count, it was down badly, and he said he had a virus of some kind, and well, within the next 3 weeks, I mean, for a horse, preparing a horse for a Melbourne Cup, you couldn't give him the racing, you couldn't even give him the work. And so we just potted him around at Flemington out in the centre without galloping or anything like that, and just trotted and cantered around. And for a horse to pick up and come out and win the Melbourne Cup again was really an outstanding performance.
But I wasn't so confident the second year because he got beaten in McKinnon on the Saturday at weight for age, and then he had to carry 9-7. But I wasn't as confident as winning of him winning the second Cup as the first.
But come that first Tuesday in November, Rain Lover was ready to race into history.
And then when I straightened up for home and soared him along, it was just like jumping on a sprinter. You know, he was changing horses halfway through.
Cup and the leader, Sir Kinsman, about 3 parts of a length in front of Rain Lover and Fuller. They've both grabbed this leader, 3 across the track, 2 lengths to Whizcan moving up. General Command on the fence. Coming around the home turn now, 2.5 furlongs to go. And shades of 1968, Rain Lover dash to the front. coming down towards the 2, and the crowd roared. Rain Lover in front. Allsoppers moving up on the outside to challenge, and they're followed closely then by Swift General Fleur. In behind them, Tails now pulled out, and he's coming home reasonably well only. Allsop moved up on the outside to tackle Rain Lover. They're clear of Tails, who can't win. He can't stay. A half furlong left to go. Allsop and Rain Lover. Rain Lover and Allsop. They're going head and head. Rain Lover on the inside. Rain Lover's got his neck in front and won by a neck. Second Allsop. Third Ben Lover.
That epic final furlong is one of the most courageous ever witnessed in the Cup.
I looked at the post, and when Allsop run to him, I thought, well, this is 24 pound different away. He's honest, but that horse is going to be too good. He got level with him, but that good a horse. He just had the will to win. He wouldn't let him get past. It was a bit of a hard go, I can tell you, the last furlong, and but on the line, I was doing better than what Allsop was. He's run and finished, and but it just proved what a champion Rain Lover was, to be a sick horse and come out and pick up and come out and win another cup.
Mick Robins has no doubt what it was that helped Rain Lover become a legend.
A big heart, you know. Really, I broke him in, and I just thought probably you get a bit fall in love with him, but I thought he was the best 2 mile of the race, that I've seen anyhow.
Rain Lover's effort to win consecutive Melbourne Cups is truly one of racing's great achievements. It was all about courage and a will to win.
And on the outside, the South Australian stayer Galilee rapidly setting sail after them. Look at Galilee go. Galilee had gone to the front, halfway down the straight, holding Light Fingers Duo and a Benjamin Bay, and it's all Galilee. Galilee, a big winner over Light
At the
Fingers.
1964 yearling sales in New Zealand, Bart Cummings purchased a pigeon-toed yearling by Alcimedes. Named Galilee, that yearling went on to take his place among the greats of racing. He stands alone as the only horse to have won the Triple Crown for stayers, the Caulfield, Melbourne and Sydney Cups.
We'd like to have this quality horse today, but those sort of horses only come in every 25 years or 50 years, in my opinion, and he was certainly something outstanding as a stayer, and he's won a lot of races up the mile and mile and a quarter, but the mile and a quarter on, he was, as I said previously, the best we've ever had.
Galilee was the classic example of the modern fast stayer. From 36 starts, he won 18 races. John Miller was in the saddle for 14 of those wins.
I think Bart expected him to measure up when he bought him. He was a magnificent horse, great temperament, you know, and he was a beautiful animal. A mile and a half was Galilee's go. He won anywhere in the world against the best class of horse over a mile and a half onwards.
Galilee and Miller began their Cups rampage in the spring of '66. A week prior to the Caulfield Cup, Galilee won the Toorak Handicap, but the opposition in the Cup was tough.
Because Tobin Bronze was all the rage, and he was hot favourite, but, you know, I just eased him out half a mile from home, stay out of trouble, give him a bit of rain, and away he went. He won easily, and he probably could have won by a bit more. And it was just a magnificent performance.
Former Perth jockey Johnny Miller gains his biggest win riding Galilee to take out the Caulfield Cup. Tobin Bronze has started a hot favourite for the Caulfield Cup, but in a roughhouse race, punters lose more than $1 million when Tobin Bronze, 11-8, finishes 6th. Galilee wins from Gala Crest with Foray on 3rd, all at 14-1.
His Cup win heralded the rise of a new champion. Galilee's winning time was the fastest recorded since the mighty Tulloch. Following the Cup, Miller was suspended for 11 days. But he returned to ride Galilee in the McKinnon Stakes. Again, his riding tactics were questioned.
I think one of the newspaper writers caused that. Once again, Tobin Bronze was trained to run a mile and a quarter or so. Galilee was trained to run 2 miles. He was in a mile and a quarter race, and he came from the back, and the other horses just out-sprinted him, you know. And on the day, they said I rode him very cold, but I don't think I rode him any different than what I did in the Cup.
I don't know what mental lapse Johnny Miller had at the time, but he certainly was capable of winning the race, in my opinion, and the way he won the Cup was quite impressive.
It was only after a prolonged steward's inquiry that Miller was cleared to ride Galilee in the Melbourne Cup.
No pressure on me. I slept for most of the day up until Cup time.
3 furlongs out, and Terrific still the leader, tackled now by Duo, and then a gap the Light Fingers, they're followed by Avenium, but well in the straight end, Terrific is gone, where Duo momentarily had gone to the lead, tackled now by Light Fingers, then Avenium, forcing a passage on the rail, and on the outside, the South Australian stayer Galilee, rapidly setting sail after them. Look at Galilee go. Galilee had gone to the front, halfway down the straight, holding Light Fingers, Duo, and Avenium at bay, and it's all Galilee. Galilee a big winner over Light Fingers, third home Duo.
The acceleration Galilee produced at the end of the 2-mile journey is the hallmark of a champion. His Cup win is rated by many as the best seen in the last 40 years.
He's the best 2-miler I've trained, and he had enormous finishing burst. He was just a champion.
Galilee returned in the autumn to win 3 weight-for-age races before heading to Sydney for the final leg of the Triple Crown.
Going up the rise, George Moore and Prince Granny made a challenge, and I thought it was a bit strange, George riding a horse up the rise in a 2-mile race, but he had to do that to get to me, and then when we topped the rise, we were head and head, and I just gave Galilee a bit of rein, and he straight away to win by about 6 lengths.
But at the peak of the champ's career, he broke down.
Veterinary surgeons at the time were under the opinion that the splint bone was fractured, and they removed the splint bone, but the horse was never ever the same after.
After an absence of 18 months, Galilee returned to racing.
It was like a Rolls Royce in his early days, but that fluent action was impaired. He was never quite as free, or had a length of stride prior to the injuries, so he won a few races, but it's never quite the old Galilee that we knew.
There's no telling what he would have done. I've ridden in a few Melbourne Cups, and I've seen a few, and I've seen some of the horses since Galilee, and I've never ridden in a Cup or seen one that he wouldn't have won quite easily at his best. By far he was the best. He had a great heart, he had a great temperament, and great physique. He was just an out-and-out champion.
He was the best stayer we had in my care, and he was just too good for most of the horses over 1.5 miles at that time. I don't think I've seen one as good as him since.
Although fate denied the champion further success, his electrifying performances as a 4-year-old were those of a champion that won't be forgotten.
Gossiper and stop the show, the centre. Gay Icarus just the leader, 250 out. Gunsend under the whip, responding to Higgins riding, moves up to Gay Icarus and takes the lead. Gossiper's fighting back, but the grey flash from Goonawindi shot away Gunsend, and the Caulfield Cup favourites home. Gunsend's 1.5 lengths to Gossiper.
Gunsend. It's a name synonymous with courage. Everybody loved the grey, whether he won or lost. He was a true character of the turf. Gunsend's pet distance was the mile. No horse before him or since has won Australia's 4 toughest mile races in the same season. Having only his second start for Tommy Smith, Gunsend won the Epsom at Randwick. In Melbourne, Roy Higgins teamed up with the horse who was to become a legend.
Oh, once we got travelling in the race, I was certainly going down the railway side at about the 600-metre mark, and I just moved him out amongst the tail enders and give him a bit of a click to sort of see if he was going to put himself in the race. And I knew by the home turn that, well, I think he's going to get home because he felt strong.
Gunsend hooked out 5 or 6 wide, is starting to come home as Tordo gets a split now. Sky Call out wide, took a narrow lead, but Gunsend's gobbling him up from Tordo. Gunsend swept to the lead, the grey from New South Wales, and he's bolted in. Gunsend drawing away to win, 1.25 lengths to Sky Call. 1.25 lengths third is Tordo from Red God.
And then it was on to Flemington. The heavy going made little difference.
Ruler at the 2.5, and the leader Tordo, 1 clear of the leader Learzo, 1 to Tordo. Welsh Prince and Gunsend out after him, and they're well clear of Levian. At the 1.5 furlong, Learzo still 1 length to Tordo. Gunsend on the outside, coming at the pair of them. Welsh Prince can't go on, and then Levian and Cadet, but Gunsin swept to the lead at the furlong. And the grey from New South Wales and Brisbane has got the George Adams one by a minute. He's 4 lengths in front of Torto, Levian, Eleazar, and behind them Sky Call, but Gunsin's won by 6 lengths to Torto.
And finally to Randwick, where he carried 9 stone 7.
Tackling quickly. Here's Gunsin down the outside with a strong run, and Baggett's in the picture too. Zambari weakening, followed by Coalition at the furlong post, and Triton raced up and took the lead from Jansbow. Here's the grey Gunsin out after Triton. It's Gunsin tackling Triton about a half furlong from home. The top weight draws to the lead. Wide out, Big Butcher's flying home. Gunsin's got the lead, getting near the line. He's hanging on, and Gunsin wins brilliantly.
Tommy Smith trained Gunsin for only 18 months. Under his guidance, the grey won 17 races from 32 starts.
Well, it was like all his great performances. You had to watch that horse to realise how good he was. I never thought he could rise to that great height that he did rise to.
From the time Gunsin entered Tulloch Lodge as an early 4-year-old, Smith fancied him as a stayer. In the spring of '71, Gunsin ran 4th in the Caulfield Cup on a miler's preparation when ridden for the only time by George Moore.
Well, that day Moore never gave him a chance because he stuck in on the fence and he never got out. All the way through the race, Moore was pulling him out of the race because he was getting jammed up. And naturally, George was one of his cranky moods that day.
But Smith was convinced he'd stay. And in his last run of that spring, he proved that he could.
Followed in the centre then by Better Talk, a length to Gunsin from Faleur, and Big Faleur trailing Gunsin. Gunsin getting wound up now in the straight as race to the leaders in a stride out wide and dash to the front. Gunsin. Higgs going for home. He's got a length and a half clear of Rad. Big Faleur under pressure running greenly. It's Gunsin clear at the furlong, 2 lengths. To Rad. He's got it, 1 Gunsin. Rad's battling on from Better Talk, Big Faleur and Double Irish, but Gunsin too fit and too good. Wins it by more than 2 lengths. Close for second placing, dead heat.
Gunsin's win in the Sandown Cup was the 2nd of 7 consecutive wins. The 4th came in the autumn of '72.
Gunsin coming 4 deep around them on the turn, and they're followed by Beaches and Levian at the head of the others. Into the straight, Abdul and Rajasab, a length and a half. Gunsin, Abdul race to the lead. Gunsin the challenger, and they're followed by Eastern Court, but Gunsin grabbed Abdul, and they're together inside the furlong. Gunsin just in front. Abdul won't give in under the whip, but Gunsin to half length in front. Then Eastern Court. Gunsin hands and heels holding them at bay, and he'll come away to win it well. Gunsin by 2 lengths at the finish. Close for the minors, or couldn't split them. Eastern
Winning
Court
the Futurity was a good effort, but just 7 days later, Smith stepped him up to 10 furlongs.
But he had that big of a heart that he would accept whatever challenge you put in front of him. He was a great horse that way.
Gunsin under tight restraint at the 2. Level with Surrender, a length and a half to Gossiper and 4 lengths to Mackay. Gunsin now has taken the lead at the 2. About a half length to Surrender is gone, and a length and a half to Gossiper. But the grey from Goonawindi asked for his effort, has kicked away 2 in front now. Gossiper under the whips out after Gunsin, and then Surrender at the furlong, but Gunsin a length and a half in front. Gossiper's running a mighty race. Gunsin will be too strong, of course. And hands and heels, Gunsin goes down to win by 2 lengths to Gossiper.
At the close of his 4-year-old season, Gunsin was a household name. His strong, distinctive head appeared on everything from teaspoons to T-shirts. When he resumed in the spring, his popularity reached fever pitch.
Gunsin had a massive following, not only from Goonawindi, where the whole townsfolk used to travel around in buses and aeroplanes and whatever just to see him race, but he'd become a public idol, and he had character, he had charisma, he had, like most champions, that enormous will to win. You know, there's very, very few photo finishes in his life that he was ever defeated in, and that's a great sign of a good horse.
Gunsin's never-say-die attitude was never more evident than in the spring of '72. Carrying 62 kilograms on a heavy track, he was narrowly beaten by the crack miler Triton in the Epsom. Down in Melbourne, he won the Caulfield Stakes.
1 1/4 length then to Gunsin to half stop the show. 1 to Better Sands, who's put Triton in a pocket. 2 to Grand Scale and 5 to Allen on the corner. Gay Icarus and Nectar Gossiper. 1 away Gunsin. Triton now hooked out 4 deep is going with Gunsin from Stop the Show. Gay Icarus in front. Gunsin went wide with Triton out after Gay Icarus, Gossiper and Stop the Show the centre. Gay Icarus just the leader, 250 out. Gunsynd under the whip, responding to Higgins riding, moves up to Gay Icarus and takes the lead. Gossiper's fighting back, but the grey flash from Goonawindi shot away Gunsynd, and the Caulfield Cup favourites home. Gunsynd's won a
At his next start, Gunsynd ran third to Sobar in the Caulfield Cup. It was then on to the weight for age WS Cox Plate at Moonee Valley.
On that occasion, I think that's the first time I've ever seen the great T.J. Smith with a little tear in his eye, and that's a pretty rare occasion.
This was a fitting victory for Gunsynd. After all, the Cox Plate's the race where legends are made.
Gunsynd three deep, about to tackle them, and Longfellow and Gunsynd have swept to the lead near the turn. They're followed by Allshot out very wide, running on from Old Icahn, Torto, Monufik, Abdul, Gay Icarus. It's Longfellow and Gunsynd on the turn together from Monufik and Allshot. Longfellow's gone. It's Gunsynd in front with Allshot coming at him from Monufik. Gunsynd's under the whip, but he's holding Allshot. Allshot trying hard, but the great grey Gunsynd in front. He's too good. What a champion. The crowd roars and Gunsynd wins a length to Allshot.
The Goonawindi Greys win in the Cox Plate was one of the most popular ever witnessed on an Australian racetrack. And then, the Melbourne Cup.
And here comes Gunsynd at the 250-metre mark. It's magnifique by a length and a half. To Gunsynd, Piping Lane could be the danger. Wider out of Stormy Seas and Double Irish. Piping Lane has moved up, got his head in front of Magnifique. Wider out Stormy Seas and Gunsynd, but Piping Lane has won the money. A boil over. Piping Lane.
The memory of Gunsynd's enormous will to win that day is one of the most renowned performances by a beaten horse in the Cup.
I was standing there waiting outside the judges' box at Flemington. When his number went up, the third, you swear blind, he won the race. They cheered to a man, and they cheered him right down that magnificent race at Flemington, even though he only won third in the race.
In the autumn, Gunsynd farewelled his Melbourne fans in great style.
He was such a character to the public. He used to stop and look back up into the grandstands out when he was going out on the track, and the public loved him. They'd stand and applaud him, and he'd basically nod to them on the way to the barrier.
And the mighty grey from Goonawindi, who's thrilled so many crowds over the last few years in Victoria. Not going to have a lot up his sleeve. He's a length and a quarter in front, but he's going to win it. Battleground and Old Icahn sticking to him, but Gunsynd ridden hard, won by 3/4 of a length to Battleground, and perhaps it's just as well it's his last race here.
Gunsynd of old, he would have beaten them by lengths, and he actually struggled to win that day, and he came back to scale a pretty weary horse, and Tommy Smith wasn't here at the time. He was in Sydney, and the owners were here, and when I dismounted, I turned to 2 or 3 of the owners and I said, "Oh, look, please, do us all a favour. Finish. Stop him, retire him. He's living on his heart now."
But the champion who wouldn't give in won 2 more races. The 29th and last win of the great horse's career was yet another special day.
I think his finest performance the day they made a presentation at Rannick, and they made it in the straight. And when the crowd was clapping, he just put his head down, left his front leg up. I thought that was an amazing performance.